In breaking news that's coming in, NDTV has accessed the One Nation, One Election panel report that has just been submitted to the President of India, Droupadi Murmu. The panel favors simultaneous polls to be held in India. What the report has suggested, and this is, mind you, an over 18,000-page report which has been formulated over meetings that have taken place for over 190 days among panel members. It was chaired by the former President of India, Ram Nath Kovind, Union Home Minister Amit Shah, the former leader of the Congress, Ghulam Nabi Azad, Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal. They were all a part of this particular panel that has in fact come out with this report. The committee is of the unanimous opinion that simultaneous elections should be held in India. This is what is written in the report. As a first step, simultaneous Lok Sabha and state polls should be held. Municipalities and panchayat polls within 100 days of such polls. So very important here that the state and central elections can be held together is the recommendation of the report. But for local polls, there is a time frame of another 100 days that is being given. The report goes on to suggest that simultaneous elections will transform the electoral process as well as governance. Simultaneous polls will also optimize scarce resources. Barring 15 political parties, 32 parties favoured and advocated for simultaneous polls. Those who said adoption would violate the constitution. Most ex-Supreme Court Chief Justices, High Court judges all have favoured simultaneous polls. Experts are of the opinion that amendments will be needed to the constitution. However, remember, at least historically, the Congress party has opposed the idea of one nation, one election, calling it anti-federalism. So this, of course, is the big breaking story. NDTV there has access to a copy of the high-level committee report on simultaneous elections. And according to what we are learning from the contents of this over 18,000-page report is that the panel has said that it's a green signal as far as one nation, one election is concerned for Lok Sabha and for state elections. Local body elections can be held within 100 days of that. Sunil Prabhu, who's been tracking the details of the story, joins us live with the very latest. So Sunil, the panel report was submitted just a short while ago, and from what we're reporting at the moment, it appears to be a green signal to one nation, one election as per the recommendations of this panel.
Yes, as per anticipated lines, I've just sent you also a flyer which has been made on this entire issue, which basically encapsulates in brief that, post 2024 that they would like to have simultaneous elections for both Lok Sabha as well as state elections. The devil is in the details. We'll have to understand now what happens, for example, Haryana, Maharashtra, which are going to the polls later on, Jharkhand, which will go to the polls in 2025. Will that be now postponed till the next Lok Sabha elections in 2029? Those are things that we'll have to look at. They've also said that after 100 days, the municipality elections. So it's just been submitted. We've just got those details, but nothing really surprising. This is something that the BJP was keen on having, and that is why they constituted this committee to let our viewers know India used to hold simultaneous elections till 1967. It is only post 1967 when the then left front government of Kerala was dismissed that we haven't had simultaneous elections. And because of the federal structure of our constitution, tomorrow if somebody withdraws support and it goes into hung assembly and then there has to be president's rule, then automatically the dates change. It's in that backdrop we will have to wait and see those finer points, how they will work that out. Because as I explained to you, Haryana and Maharashtra are due for elections post-2024. How are you going to do it? Will the term be cut short? How will they do it? What happens to the elections that are due in Bihar next year? How are those things going to be played out? So the devil is in the detail, and we will wait to see. Will they curtail the short of the parliament as well as the assembly for that period so as to ensure a simultaneous poll? What happens to the fact that suppose legislatures want to have early election or decide to defect two-thirds, or as we have seen in many cases in recent times, where there have been large-scale defections and trying to precipitate a crisis in terms of holding elections. So these are certain factors which will have to be looked at in its entirety, and how the Kovind panel has actually dealt with that.
Yes. It's very interesting that you say that, Sunil, because that was going to be my next question to you, that given the kind of political climate where any government can come to power, but really mandates aren't really cast in stone. We've seen large-scale defections, governments falling. It's almost been a pattern in the last 10 years that one has seen, and perhaps even before that as well. How does this then play out, and what happens to the Congress party's main argument, the main criticism against one nation, one election? Of course, keeping the logistics of it aside for the moment, has been that it could potentially threaten the federal structure of the country. What then happens to that argument?
That's the most important point. That is the real detail which we'll need to really analyze and see, because this is an 18,000 page report. It's just been made public, and one will have to go through the fine print of how they've addressed it, speak to the members also relating to this in this aspect. So definitely these are certain issues that will need to be looked at in its entirety. As you rightly pointed out, the federal structure is something that is very core to India's constitution. It's a basic structure. And if you are now going to attempt to say that you will have simultaneous elections, that come what may, you will have to have 5-year term, or somebody wants to dismiss a government or defect, or some chief minister decides, as you saw in the case of the TRS, they wanted early elections, so they dissolved the assembly beforehand.
Yes.
It is duty bound on the governor to go ahead and then hold elections within 6 months. So how do you go about that entire process? Does that mean that it is cast in stone, as you rightly point out, that you cannot, term will be for 5 years, come what may? So these are larger questions which will have to be looked at in that report.